Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Building with Scope in Public. This is our fourth one already. And today, something feels different about Scope this week. It's not just one feature, it's the overall vibe. Because instead of thinking, okay, how do I set this thing up? I just opened it. And that might sound small, but it actually changes quite a lot. Because until now, trying Scope usually meant one of two paths, right? So either you're comfortable with the CLI or you run it on something like Rumpod and you accept a bit of infrastructure thinking. And that's not a big deal, especially if you're already in that world, right? So that's pretty much great. But for a lot of people, that friction is enough to stop them before they ever really experiment. And this week, that friction drops hard because we now have our brand new Windows desktop app. So if you have a serious GPU, think like 4090 or a 5090 territory, you can now run Scope locally just like a normal app. There's no ceremony, you just open Scope and try things. And this is early, this isn't polished, everyone should do this moment. It's a builder phase. And this builder phase is exactly where I want us to be because this is where feedback actually shapes what the product becomes. So instead of a feature tour, I want to do one real experiment end to end the way I actually work. I'm going to build one small workflow today. And the goal is actually simple. I want to build an origami-style Christmas scene. For that, I will use one of the supported pipelines. In my case, that's going to be LongLive. But check this out. We now also have a support for reward forcing. So I would encourage you to try that one out. It has been recently added. And beyond that, you might remember that in one of our previous episodes, I was talking about different modalities for models, right? So some of them were text only, some of them text and video. But in this release, you are able to see that under the input mode, you can obviously choose between the text and video. But if you go for video, it can be a video file, it can be a camera, so basically using your webcam, or it can even be a spout receiver, so you can interact between Scope and maybe some desktop app that is able to send frames to Scope itself. We'll be talking way more about that in the future, and a bunch of pipelines actually support this. I think even Korea real-time video, yeah, exactly. You can choose video file, camera, spout receiver, and so on. So we expanded that, and I think it's really, really, very, very exciting. So let me go back to LongLive. I will use the text input mode. And as I said, I'm going to create this Christmas scene with origami. So one of the things that I usually use LLMs for is also to help me build and create prompts for Scope. So I have one that's already prepared here that I'll just copy paste. So it says origami Christmas living room scene, cozy festive atmosphere at night, paper folding fireplace. What I want you to notice also is that I'm describing a dynamic here, right? So I want this scene to be somewhat live and evolving. So let's see how it will look like. So I'm just going to copy this, put it in my prompt box, and just run it and see how it goes. Okay, yeah, that is what I was hoping for. The paper texture reads, the lighting field warms, and the scene seems to stay coherent, at least in these first 10-20 seconds. There is a little fire hazard there, I can say, because origami and the fireplace usually don't play well together. But even those changes are relatively subtle, which I like. So ornaments are shifting, the star has been appearing. It is really nice, and this is the actual point. But I want to also bring your attention to one thing. Now, this is early, and I want to be very clear about something. If you try the desktop app and something feels rough, that is really not a problem. This is literally the phase we are currently in. And if something breaks or behaves strangely, please do report it. That feedback is incredibly valuable right now. You can do it just by hitting the report button, and you can just click on the copy logs, which will ask you for a permission to access your clipboard, and then you can hit the create bug report. That will create a bug report on our GitHub page. These things are extremely important for us and help us quite a bit. One of the things that people have already asked while I'm at this topic is, where are the models stored locally and where are the logs stored locally? So let me show you how that works. I actually have the logs from before here. And if you were to open yours, you will see the same stuff. So logs are in your user directory in Daydream/logs, and the models are in the similar one here. So you can always see it here. If you want to, just double check it on your terminal, you can easily navigate to your location. Give me 1 second. Yep. I'll just ls into it, and I can see all my models are here. Yeah, as you can see. Also, if you prefer seeing those in Windows Explorer, you can do that as well. So if I go to Creo real-time video, I see my save tensors file here. So all my models are locally available here, making it even easier for me to experiment and work with instead of just going and messing with my CLI. So I love this. It's transparent, it's inspectable, it feels like a real builder tool at this point. So now I want to share something that I think that makes Scope feel bigger than just my machine. So right above this timeline, we have two buttons, export and import, right? And this is where workflows, basically this entire setup that comprises of prompt selection, model selection, and a bunch of different settings, it becomes, stops becoming like a private experiment and starts becoming a shareable object. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to export this origami Christmas workflow and share it with the community. So let's talk a little bit more about our community and Creator Hub and how it all fits into this together. So this is our Creator Hub or a community hub that we've built. It features a lot of different creators and their work that you can explore and play with. You can also filter down by selecting stuff for Touch Designer or Scope Workflow, which is exactly what I'm going to do right now. And you can see a bunch of different workflows that are available here. So this is one called Desert Magic. Okay, I can see here. This is from Eric. Eric is my boss. I better follow him. And then, of course, I could download his workflow and import it into Scope, and it would work just like that on my machine as well. So I think this is a really, really nice flow. What I'm going to do, I will, as I said, export mine. And if you want, you can just use it as a starting point. Import it, use it as a base, change it. And if you end up building something cool, I would like you to export your workflow and share it back on this community hub. Also, as I said, explore what other people are doing. This is the kind of community content that I really care the most about, right? There is a bunch of these wonderful creations and creators over there. So each of them, there is not just a screenshot, not vague tips. You actually have a file that you can interact with. I like this one from Hunter. I like jellyfish. I think this is awesome. And, actual working setups. So it's easy for you to experiment with them, remix them, almost like having a taste at your disposal, right? Whenever you want to do it, and you can easily bring it into Scope. So yeah, as I said, today and this week, Scope does feel very different. Not because we just shipped a checkbox on, an item on our roadmap, which is always nice, but it's not the point. But because the loop changed. So it's now easier to show up, it's easier to experiment, and it is easier to share what you've made. And that's, what in my mind participation looks like in building these kinds of communities around real-time AI video models looks like. So, all right, I'm going to publish this workflow. If you remix it, I would like to see what you do with it. And if you make something genuinely weird and beautiful, please do export it, and I might include it at the start of my next video. I'm going back to experimenting right now. There are so many different things that I want to explore right now with this desktop build, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.